Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. My name's Harmon. Today's video is about former Playboy model 20-year-old Dorothy Stratten, who was brutally murdered by her estranged husband named Paul Snider. In 1977, Dorothy ended up meeting her then husband, Paul Snider, when she was working at a Dairy Queen. Paul Snider was kind of like a area promoter type guy where he would kind of represent different models and stuff like that. And so they quickly started their relationship, and only a few years later, in June 1979, they ended up getting married. However, the marriage quickly crumbled. Within a year, Dorothy had an affair with a director by the name of Peter Bogdanovich. Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Dorothy wrote a letter to her now estranged husband and said, "I'm separating and going to divorce you officially." On numerous occasions when Dorothy would go over to their former house here to see Paul Snider, she and Paul both got into a lot of arguments. A lot of them got pretty heated. Around the time that Dorothy was murdered, Paul had hired a private investigator for a sum of about $3,000 a month. He, again, was trying to confirm the rumors that his wife, Dorothy, was trying to have numerous affairs with the director, Peter. And because he was putting $3,000 a month onto this investigator, he had no money left over to pay for the rent. Even though they were estranged, looking towards divorce, she would go and help pay for part of the rent. Even though she didn't live there at the house at the time, Paul started shopping around for a gun. He asked his manager at the time to try to purchase a gun for him because he at the time was a Canadian citizen, and so he didn't have any rights to buy a gun here legally. His manager stated, "No, I'm not going to do that for you." Eventually though, on August 13th, 1980, the day before Dorothy was murdered, he was able to purchase a shotgun from a private buyer. The next day, August 14th, 1980, Dorothy arranged to show up at her former house, which Paul Snider still lived at, and she was going to go there to drop off like $1,100 to help pay for part of the rent. Dorothy arrived at the house, went inside, and police reports state that within about an hour of her arrival, Paul shot and killed her with a shotgun in the bedroom. And then about an hour after that, Paul ended up killing himself. Same shotgun, one bullet for Dorothy and one bullet for himself. Paul had roommates. The roommates saw Dorothy's car parked out front. They didn't see Dorothy or Paul. They just saw the bedroom door closed, and so I think they just assumed that, you know, that they were kind of rekindling their marriage, which was already done at that point. But that's what they assumed, and so they kind of just hung out in the living room for many hours. Meanwhile, Dorothy and Paul were both dead in the bedroom, only a few feet away. Either the private investigator that was following Dorothy or someone contacted the roommates and said, "Hey, we haven't heard from Dorothy or Paul in a while, like, can you check and see?" They finally went to the bedroom after a few hours, and that is when they discovered, of course, both Dorothy and Paul's bodies. When police arrived, they noticed that both Paul and Dorothy were both naked, and also that the $1,100 that Dorothy had brought to pay for some of the rent or whatever was left there in the living room, as well as her purse. I'm on Clarkson Road, and coming up to the house, of course, where Paul murdered Dorothy. Coming up to their house right now, and it's located at 10881 Clarkson Road. Now, if I remember right, the roommates lived in one section of the house. Paul and Dorothy lived in the other section. Again, though, Dorothy at the time, since she was separated from Paul, she wasn't living here at the time, but of course Paul still was. It is so surreal, kind of odd in a way, being here. Stratten was not her birth name. It was actually a little bit longer than that. Again, she rose to fame by having her pictures sent to Playboy, and again, Paul, he's the one that took the pictures of her and sent them to Playboy. And I believe in 1979, she was like Playboy of the Month. And then in 1980, she was like Playboy of the Year. And she even received some roles in TV and film. She was an actress in a few episodes of Fantasy Island. She had a couple small film roles, Skate Town USA, and one was called like Americathon. She was only 20 years old at the time of the murder. So her career was just starting. In his eyes, he basically helped start her career in modeling, and that jump started her to film and acting. And because after less than a year of marriage already was ready to move on and ready to divorce him, I think that really upset him. However, he had similar affairs. Apparently, after learning that Dorothy was having her affairs, he decided to have some affairs on his own. Alright guys, just want to say thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Be safe.
Sharing a dream.